So before I start the panel, a few quick words. Welcome. I'm delighted to kick off the festival. Suffice it to say, when I started envisioning this, I didn't imagine a 3-day festival with over 50 writers, over 20 panels, spread over 3 days. It just kind of grew that way. I think that's been indicative of how this whole venture has come to be. I think most of the people that are here know what 1455 is, what we're all about. If you haven't had a chance, we've got brochures, we've got beautiful programs for the event so you can see everything that's going on. I'll be around all weekend, and I'm living in Winchester now, so if you have any questions or thoughts or comments, feel free to pull me aside. If you see someone with a blue name tag, their staff, they can help you out. But really, I want to thank some folks, in particular Brightbox, Marilyn Finnemore, who's brought this amazing venue to Winchester. Just seemed like the right place, and I'm delighted to be doing the work here. I want to thank Christine Patrick from the Winchester Book Gallery, who's become a valued partner. I want to encourage everyone. We've got books from most, if not all, of the authors here. Buy books, support the writers, support the cause. This entire event is free. It's not free to pull off. I wanted to make it free. If anyone is interested in helping support our mission or support this event, let me know. You can make a donation. There's donation cards in the back of the programs. I want to thank 2 people in particular that are here today, without whom this event would be much diminished. First, Karen Vasquez, who's on our advisory board, has pretty much everything you visually see. She's helped with the signs, she helped design and print the programs. Invaluable support. I'd be lost without that help, so thank you for that. And the handsome gentleman that handed you your badge when you came in is Ben Mayrides. He's a buddy of mine going back to college, which a couple of years ago. His vision and assistance have pulled this from being an analog event. Without him, this would probably be pen and paper, and he's helped make this a digital thing. So great appreciation to one of my good friends and cherished advisory board member. Thank you, Ben, for being here. Thank you for all you do. Without further ado, again, thanks for getting here early. Let's get this party started. The first panel, I want to bring up some friends and titans of the Winchester area. Jenna, why don't you come up on stage and I'll introduce you. But I'll preface, while they get up here, I'll preface it by saying it was really important to me to kick off this event that celebrates creativity and community with people that have been doing that here in town a lot longer than I have, and have given me guidance, wisdom of their experience and inspiration. So it was really critical to me to kick off the event so we can share some knowledge and inspiration about how we build community. So joining me in this first panel, to my immediate left, is John Huddy.
Don't read that bio.
No?
Somebody else wrote it for me. It sounds like I'm Stalin or something.
I think that's cool.
Which I am of libraries.
So John Huddy is the Stalin of Winchester. He directs the Handley Regional Library System, which is a system of 3 libraries serving over 120,000 residents in the Shenandoah Valley near Northern Virginia. He has over 21 years of experience in progressive librarian leadership, specializing in the role of technology and the future of how library systems should meet the needs of their patrons. Huddy began his library career in technology and intelligence and moved into an analytics role for a government sponsor. He served as a public librarian for Fairfax County Public Library and transitioned into a branch manager at Loudoun County Public Library, where they launched Ashburn Library to the community in 2003. Shortly after, Huddy was named Deputy Director of Loudoun County Public Library and Branch Manager for Gum Springs Library. Since 2013, he served as the Director of Handley Regional, where he's led the system through a major rebranding, new technology and digital initiatives, improved collections, enhanced community relations, and better ways to connect residents to information and entertainment to meet their needs. John, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Next to him is the always entertaining Andy Gyurisin.
That's the bar. That's it.
No. I gotcha.
That was good enough right there.
Born in the hills of Pennsylvania with a loud voice and talent for sitting, Andy Gyurisin has taken his dreams into a career of handling programming and promotions at the Winchester-Alamo Drafthouse Cinema in Winchester, Virginia, as well as being the founder of its film club, which started in his living room and has become a model for Alamo Drafthouse film clubs all over the nation. Occasionally, the same voice and slightly goofy delivery will be found in May as the official announcer of the Shenandoah Apple Blossom Festival's Firefighters Parade. He's advised small business owners for Lord Fairfax Community College, recommended novels to book lovers as a one-time owner of the Winchester Book Gallery, and recently had a beer with Emilio Estevez.
That's right.
If the Alamo Winchester is showing a movie you never heard of, it's likely because of him.
Thank you.
And last and far from least, Mr. Justin Kerns.
Summarize.
Okay, he was one of the first people I met when I brought 1455 to town. I was advised strongly to get to know him, and within a half hour of our first lunch meeting, had sent me an email with about 30 people I needed to contact. So Justin has been an absolutely invaluable asset and resource, and what he's done for me, he does every day for the town of Winchester. He's a Virginia native, a playful traveler, having visited 49 of 50 states and a number of European and Asian countries. After graduation, he formed Sustainable Tourism Management, a research-based tourism development consulting company, which helped a number of Southern California cities develop their initial tourism strategy and infrastructure. Justin found his true calling in the DMO CVB world upon returning to Virginia. He launched a newly formed tourism office in Mecklenburg County, Virginia, and worked creatively with a very limited budget. He's also assisted in creating several regional initiatives that have been the model for numerous other trails in the state and region. He joined the Winchester-Frederick County CVB as executive director in 2015 and has led the organization through a rebranding, new ad campaign, and data-driven marketing efforts. Regionally, he's helping lead an exciting 11 locality collaborative effort to rebrand and promote Virginia's Shenandoah Valley, and was co-creator of the Shenandoah Spirits Trail. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. A round of applause for our first panelist. So let's just get right down to brass tacks. Everyone knows what community means, I think with maybe a large and uppercase C, but in terms of lowercase c, the boots on the ground, how you build community, I think the three of you are instrumental both on a local level, but you also exemplify how it's done right. I would love you to take a minute and just talk about what your vision of community is and how your experience has led you to be doing what you're doing.
Well, in my case, the public library, I've always known the use of a public library and why it's important and all of that. A lot of people don't really know that. And so by expanding into the community, I raise the profile of the library. The library then becomes a place for the community to do things and to learn things and to get involved and go on and do all this fun stuff. So by working with partners in communities such as your own organization, we then tell people what we've got going on, and we kind of move forward into the community. So it's been pretty easy for us. People, it's not like we're looking for anything and this sort of thing. We're just trying to help people better their lives. So for us, it's been fairly easy, and I have a propensity to say yes to almost everything. So when somebody came to me and said, hey, John, we're gonna blah, blah, and I said yes. When Justin came to me a couple weeks ago and said, we're gonna go and have you get rained on and meet with people in the community, I said yes. When Andy says, hey, we've got this thing, the Alamo for kids, would you like to come? Yes. And I find that's the easiest way to get involved in the community and get the community involved in the library, is just to say yes and say, okay, what's the positive outcome going to be here? And so, for us, it's a natural fit. So now I don't have to follow Andy, so I'm going to
something that wasn't in the bio is that I did grow up here in this community. I'm a graduate of Handley High School. My family is still here. My mom and dad moved here in the 1980s, so I've had the opportunity to see what Winchester-Frederick County community is really all about. And having grown up here specifically and trying to escape every once in a while, but finding myself returning, you learn just how important this community is, how strong this community is. But for me, the small C in community, which I think will translate to a bigger C is the diversity of this community. And what we've really tried to do at the Alamo Drafthouse is similar to what John has stated, is say yes to everything, but truly highlight the diversity within this community. And that's, to me, what's really important. We are known oftentimes for our Civil War, for our truly old history, which is nothing wrong with that. But what I'm truly proud of is where we are today. The strength we have with our LGBTQ community, the strength we have with our NAACP community, and as the world changes, no matter whatever your political stance is, it's important to realize that we are all living next door to each other, and we are all important within this community. And so that's what we have tried to do at the Alamo Drafthouse, and that is the stamp I've tried to make while in this community, is to really highlight, promote, and demonstrate the nooks and crannies, the important parts, the stuff that makes me excited to look outside and say, like, I live in the Shenandoah Valley, and this is why. So that's a little C for me right there. Oh, I just got so excited about that.
You're stealing John's identity. All right, so from the tourism side of things, we're kind of we're the big governmental bad guys over here. Our job, our role in the community, we're really, we're blessed, we're very fortunate to be able to have the role of almost setting the identity of our community to the outside world. So we are the ones that identify all the great things that are in our community at the small C. You know, we look at the great people, the great personalities, the great business owners that we have here in our community, not just our history, but who's here now. And we have the ability to ferret all of that out and put that in our marketing and put that in everything that we do, to be able to tell the whole world, hey, Winchester is a fantastic place because of the people that live here, because of the things that go on here, because of the arts that we have here, because of all of those different pieces. And the arts are an incredibly important piece. I'm not going to jump ahead to your next question, but I haven't seen any questions. I'm assuming there's another one. But yeah, the arts are a very important piece of that, obviously. But yeah, we have that role. We have that unique role to be able to do that. We've got a great board. Andy's on that board. To have all those different voices from our community and be able to set that tone and set that image of our community and how we see ourselves and how we want the rest of the world to see ourselves. So we have the ability to be able to do that. It's a great thing.
Over to you.
Thank you, sir. So I think the four of us really understand the pros and cons and really the myth of the cliche, build it and they will come. Taking this festival as a microcosm of that, you can do it. You hope people show up, but you need to promote, you need to engage, you need to show that you've got some credibility. What are some of because I think one of the words that surfaced in all of your biographies is, and it's such a buzzword, but it's inevitable, you have to innovate. You have to change with the times, whether that means social media, whether that means how do you engage actively with the community and not be passive. I'd love you guys to talk a little bit about what maybe some of those challenges are, but how build it and they will come is not true, at least on a micro level.
Right. The biggest problem that almost every public library, from us to the New York Public Library, is the overwhelming misunderstanding of what a library has, what a library can do for you. And so by providing new tools and technologies for people to have, we have hotspots. You guys know that. If you don't have Wi-Fi in your house, you can come check one out from the Bowman Library and take them home and you can get the internet, because we provide accessibility to our collections. We have all this stuff, but if you don't have the Wi-Fi in your house, you can't use a lot of it. So my role is to not only change the nature of a public library, what we offer, but also to market those same tools to the public so that they know that these things actually exist. Because if you ask people, like we had a reporter, not to put any reporters under the table, but somebody's like, how do you justify yourself in the age of the internet? I'm like, I don't have to. Yeah. Usage of the library has gone up in since I've been here, and it went up before I was here. And it's just, but we have to market it, we have to keep it. We did rebrand. You can see our lovely logo up there, which is kind of redone to be more positive and inclusive and colorful. And we've got a new web page, and you've got to keep, we're never going to catch the cutting edge, but we've got to keep getting towards that cutting edge. And if we don't, we're gonna be the place where, you know, hope goes to die or whatever. So we don't, that's not really like something I wanna do. So for us, it's just constantly looking at new things, evaluating them, and I've worked with Shenandoah University and had graduate students work on programs where they found various things, like the need to have the hotspots was there was at least 30,000 people didn't have Wi-Fi in their house. And we also did a program, we discovered that if you're not a reader, I'm not pointing to you, but if you're not a reader, but I have to have events at the library that will not speak to a reader, but they'll speak to something else. And then they come to the library and they say, hey, look at all this cool stuff. And they get a library card and we move forward. So for us, it's been sort of a multi-level approach that we've sort of rolled out over time of making ourselves more accessible, changing some of the rules that became a library. It was like a Soviet checkpoint to get a library card, and you don't want that. People, if you can't get a library card immediately and quickly, then you're never gonna come back. And we have to be open, like we work with the lovely city council, a shout out to make sure that we are open more hours over time, because if we're not, and you come in on, it used to be closed at 1 o'clock on Thursdays, you come at 2 o'clock on Thursday, you're never coming back, and we've lost you forever. So just like any business, we have to market and be changing with the times. Over to you, Andy.
Andy Gyurisin, non-reader, apparently. Got to re-change this. When I think about the phrase, build it and they will come, it sort of makes me cringe. As a movie guy, I often get that phrase, I attach that phrase, I should say, to that Kevin Costner weepy film, where he has a field and doesn't know what to do with it. Urban planning comes into effect. He wants to rebuild his youth. And so ultimately ghosts come back and show him everything's gonna be fine. And within that sort of phrase, within that sort of movie, you have that if you build it, they will come. And I don't believe that philosophy in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's an important key to take back to wherever you go, especially as if you're working on writing or if you're a writer and that sort of thing as well. If you write a book, people will not just inevitably buy it. There are more things that you would need to do to make sure that that book is becoming successful and so forth. But the key to all of that, for me, is the community. If the community hasn't embraced it, if the community isn't aware of it, if the community isn't saying that we need this, then if you build it, you'll just have an empty building for the longest period of time. I'll use in reference our film club that Sean mentioned within the intro that he gave. Oftentimes I'm credited for bringing small independent films to the community, and I really shrug upon that. Our community has embraced the need for a non-drive to the DC area, to support in the local area, and to watch movies that are challenging and exciting. And we do that because they want it. I often say, because we've got over 3,000 members, we're screening twice a week, that's all because of them. If it was just me in front of an audience, me in front of my mom or dad just screaming about a great film, I'm not sure I would even be on this panel today. And so I encourage all of you out there, as you're sort of learning about your product, writing your book, or thinking about the next step for it, is really talk to your community about it and make sure your community is invested with everything you're going on. I look out towards the audience and I see the amazing Laura Robb here. And she's a perfect example of that. Our community has absolutely embraced the work that she's done. I know you're in a lot of our schools, and I don't think my mom, who's been in the school system, she's become sort of a rock star out here. But if without that, we would just know her as Laura Robb, neighbor of the community and that sort of thing as well. And I'm really excited to say that if you get out there and you sort of get involved in different things and make sure the community wants what you're looking for. Oftentimes you may have to tweak it a bit, you may have to listen, but if they're invested, they'll come back as a whole. So if you build it, you'll need to do more than just build it. And that goes back to what John was saying, and perhaps that's marketing, but I also think that that means exerting yourself out there a little bit more. Very vague answer, but I liked it. Good.
When I was living in Southern California, several years ago, we went to this little coffee shop, this dingy little coffee shop. And we were sitting there talking, and it was one of those things where I had a blackboard and people would write things up on the blackboard, and I was sitting there and I kind of looked up and it said, and this has resonated with me, it said, speech is free, having someone hear you is expensive. And that sums up eloquently my entire job. That's for the last 10 years. It's very true. Like we have a beautiful community here. We have all sorts of wonderful things that go on that nobody will know about if we don't tell them about it. It's such a noisy marketplace out there these days. Everything is noisy. You're getting hit with ads. You pull up your phone. Good luck. You know, you're getting hit with ads left and right. You turn on the TV. You turn on the radio. You just drive down the street. You're getting hit with ads left and right. And there's so many avenues for advertisers to get to you. So we're constantly trying to figure out how to market our community and get people to hear. It's challenging. It's a huge challenge in our world, in our industry, with the tourism industry. I'm sure if you're writers out here, you have books, you have to market your book. If you just write a book and stick it on a shelf, who's ever going to read the thing? You know, you got to get it out there. You have to, and you have to be creative. You have to be more and more creative. The outlets are becoming very challenging. You know, 5 years ago, everything was banner ads. So you put out banner ads, and everybody's gonna see your banner ad. Does anybody pay attention to a banner ad when you're scrolling through your phone and looking at the news, and you're like, oh, another ad, and you go shoop, right past the ad, and you keep on going. I hope I'm not. There's no advertisers here in the room. Okay, but I mean, you skim right through it. So it's constantly a challenge. What we're doing, we're investing a lot of money is PR. So we're trying to put money into travel writers to come and come out and experience our area, to write articles about Winchester, because we know that the public will trust an article more than they're going to trust an ad. Now, we try to touch people twice at all times, touch them twice, so we still believe in the value of the ad, but we need to have something else to go along with that, so that people have read an article and it's in the back of their mind, and then they see, they happen to, their eyes catch, oh, Winchester, oh, that's right, I read that article about them. And then you've made that connection. There's actually a synaptic response that happens in your brain when you remember something. When you see something and you remember it, it brings it to the forefront. So we're trying to play on that, but it's a constant challenge. It's a constant challenge, and it is expensive. You have to constantly invest. It's a very, very competitive marketplace. I like to say, people say, well, if you don't market Winchester, to tourists, well, people are still going to keep coming here. Well, yeah, people are still going to keep coming here. That's absolutely true. If Coca-Cola stopped marketing tomorrow, would people still drink Coca-Cola? Yes, but the next day you're going to have the biggest party ever at Pepsi, because they're going to go, whoa, all right, we are going to capture this void of this marketplace. People will keep drinking Coke, but less and less and less. It will never go away. People will still keep drinking it, but Pepsi's market share is going to explode. And it's the exact same thing. We are marketing a product. Winchester-Frederick County is a product, and we are marketing that. So we are trying to stay out there and stay on the top. And you'll see that in ads. You'll see that when you're reading a magazine, AAA magazine or something. You'll see an article, or you're reading an outside magazine on Chattanooga. The article on Chattanooga comes up. That didn't happen by accident. Chattanooga has a fantastic PR department within their tourism office that is constantly going out and placing and getting their travel writers to come and write articles about Chattanooga. None of that's accidental. A lot of that happens on purpose, and it's expensive.
Right.
Sean, I'm going to jump in one
Please.
more time again, because I like what Justin said, but I would also encourage the other side of the marketing of it all does need to be in community involvement. Going back to what Sean began with, that small C, all of us in this room come from a community, whether it's here within the Shenandoah Valley or if it's back at home. And I would encourage all of you to leave this literary arts festival and sort of find yourself saying, what do I want to be involved with within the community that I'm going back home to? Marketing is important. What we're doing in terms of ad spend and that sort of thing when you get into the field of it all is important, but oftentimes we need all of you to be the champions of our towns and our communities. And so if that would be deciding, hey, I'm going to go volunteer extra time at the library, or I'm going to go make sure I buy every book I have at the local bookstore, or I'm going to invest in the independent movie theater that we have in our town. A like on Facebook doesn't mean that you are suddenly a community champion. A community champion means putting your clothes on and going outside and literally talking to other people about what makes your community great. And I know for a fact that Sean mentioned in his introduction that there was a lot of digital movement behind this event to make it work, but I know that for many of you it was because you wanted to be here to talk to other people, to champion what you're doing and that sort of thing as well. And I would almost argue a majority of you came because you heard it from a friend who was passionate about it as well. So don't underestimate the value of all of us sitting in a room together and talking about what we do. I think that there's a lot of, we miss that in a digital age, but I think the importance is coming back. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, so
Thanks, Andy. That's actually that's a great segue because it anticipated my next question, which was, and I'll get to it. As a former technology analyst, if I wrote it once, I wrote it hundreds of times. It is the truth. In the dawn of everything with digital content, content's never been more freely available. There's never been more stuff out there for you to access. That's very democratizing, that's very wonderful, it's very liberating, but it also ups the competition. So the competition for your eyeballs, the competition for your attention has never been more intense. And Andy, to your point, some of the very understandable questions I got when I had the audacity to imagine a literary festival before our center has even opened, it occurred to me, and it made perfect sense, that there wasn't a chicken and egg proposition. To a certain extent, to have credibility within the community, I think you need to demonstrate that you've got skin in the game, you're willing to put on events without an ROI assumed, that it's not a quid pro quo transaction, and for a nonprofit organization that's mission statement is to celebrate and promote creative people and creativity, to me it gradually made sense. I had to do a festival before we opened the center because we had to show people what we could do. But what I was going to ask you guys to elaborate on, and I think the panel was chosen for a variety of good reasons, but one of them is because you guys do tend to, because of exactly what you do, if you look at building community as a pie of sorts, I think, Andy, you can speak specifically with your film club to, you touched on it, but I would love you to frankly celebrate and brag a little bit. When we had lunch talking about this panel a couple months ago, you can go first, I think, and you can elaborate on how you did grow from literally a basement to a big thing. And I think what that does is it's talking about what all of us have touched on, which is you have to take advantage of the technology. It's there to be utilized and use it to your advantage. But anyone that assumes, I've got 500 Facebook followers, I'm golden, you're going to be very disappointed with the results. So I think it would be a good case study for you to kind of talk us through, and again, I'm happy to say for you, brag a little bit about how you built something out of nothing. That's a good object lesson for any community builder.
Thank you. Well, that is very kind. And I will preface by saying that the film club doesn't exist without its ongoing, constant support from its membership. I would love, in any way, shape, or form, to take any credit, but again, they continue to show up week after week. They show their support. As all I do is scream and yell and try to give them an experience that they've never had before, hopefully. But really, it started at the Winchester Book Gallery. Our video stores were dying in our community, which is the saddest thing in the entire world. Sidebar, video stores are a museum, a cultural way to explore different lands, to explore different languages. Without them, it is the saddest thing I've ever seen. And for those of you who will, on this side, and I point to you, argue that Netflix and your digital platforms are the say-all for that, I will stand to the other side of the room with that conversation. Because I truly believe the interaction, and this will be exactly why this point is being made, that the interaction of the video store clerk was exactly what we needed when talking about movies. It was a physical person saying, and this is the memory that I have of video stores, it was a physical person saying, you need to watch this movie because it changed who I was. And for us to walk away and either be like, oh wow, this was the greatest thing, or no, it isn't. And I remember a time at the book gallery where a patron had come in and a young filmmaker was in there looking through the selection, and she said to this filmmaker, have you ever seen the 400 Blows? And he said no, and she took it off the shelf, purchased it for him, and handed it to him, and said, you need to watch this, and he will, and I still get emails from him that says, this is the movie that I will always remember as the movie that changed the direction of the films that I was watching. And so that's truly what I believed when our video stores were dying. We needed a hub of exploration of small movies, especially as our studios are becoming conglomerates of sorts. There are literally 4 big studios producing most of the cinema that we watch. And so we needed an avenue to explore independent cinema. For the longest time here in the Shenandoah Valley, it was said we couldn't do it. We didn't have the population to support it. Instead, people would drive to DC to all of that. I tended to think that was an impossibility. I knew friends who liked these movies, and so at the book gallery, we began watching movies on a weekly basis, discussing afterwards. We then moved it to my house, and as much as my wife enjoyed us staying very late into the evenings talking about movies, she kicked us out. I had to find a new home, and the Alamo Drafthouse was kind enough to allow us to go in there. And what began as me introducing our very first screening over at the Alamo of Metropolis, Fritz Lang's 1929 beautiful film, with 80 people and 100 people on a social media platform, maybe 20 email addresses. This was 6 years ago. Transformed now into over 3,000 members, 2 screenings a week. Studios are asking us to show movies in Winchester because we have a community that will now support and embrace. That's a very kind clap, but I encourage you to clap at Maria, I encourage you to clap at David, at Barbara, at Amber over here, the opportunity of what they are doing to make sure of this. This is not me. Again, this is me making posts and getting people excited. It's their constant dollar and time support that allows this to happen. And from that, we've been able to create film festivals. We've partnered with John on great events to bring movies to the community that have to do with the library. We've partnered with Sean with some of our groups in the past. He did a great screening of The Shining. Our goal is to use cinema to highlight what makes this community important. And what to me is most impressive is when I go to a screening, of which I walk around and shake hands with everyone that comes in through the front door. I want to remember their names and faces. And we've created a community within all of that, is that it's great to shake the hands of DC folks who have traveled to Winchester because the movie that we are showing is not playing in the DC area. Right on. And so then we can sort of easily in front of the group say, it's nice to welcome our friends from DC down to this community. And so I love for them to be able to say, why doesn't DC have this, but Winchester can? The most recent example is that 2 weeks ago we screened Awkwafina's new film, The Farewell, a movie that just opened in 4 cities nationwide, and we were able to get it a day a week and a half, or I don't even know, it was a considerable amount of time earlier, and that was because A24, the distributor of the company, said, we want to show it in Winchester because of the support they've shown for years and years, and then and my counterparts in DC were all saying, how come we didn't get it? The same is being said for the public. When Emilio Estevez was here, there was confusion as to why Winchester was celebrating this film and it couldn't happen in DC. And so it's because of those in this audience that have come to participate that we have made that happen. Again, all I do is just scream and get people excited. I'm that dude that's like, it's a horrible maybe analogy, but I'm just the guy that sort of like gives you that first bump of amazingness. And then you just keep coming back because it's amazing. When we had the video store at the book gallery, I would always encourage people to watch the first disc of a great TV series. And then I'd ask them to pay for the rest of it. So it's sort of giving and seeing what they want and then growing from there. But the other side of it is that we listen. We listen all the time. And we're always bringing in things that people want to hear and see. Next weekend, we're excited to bring the new Pavarotti film into the community because everyone's been asking for it. And so we're looking forward to that support. Sean, does that give you what you need for that case study?
Perfect.
Oh, well, thank you all for listening for that ever-long rambling. I always think of that like Adam Sandler film where it's like nowhere in that course of dialogue did you make any sense in any way, shape, or form. So I appreciate all of you. And literally say thank you to Marie and David and Barbara for everything that they do. Because it's because of them that we have a film club in this community.
Great. Well, so
I want to make sure if anyone in the audience has any reactions or comments or questions, we get those addressed. So feel free to raise your hand and pipe in. Otherwise, I've got a couple more questions.
Questions?
Too early.
Oh, there's Marie. She's got a question.
Can I just pipe in? I have a comment real quick. Andy is the most modest person, and he says it's film club, but he's more than just the guy that stands up there and yells, which shows the commitment that it takes to grow something and to get involved in the community, because he is the Pied Piper, and his enthusiasm is contagious, and he has a gift for knowing everybody's name and remembering everybody's name. And so it takes a very special investment and time, not just standing up and yelling. And so it's a symbiotic relationship.
So I would say, rather than ask the question I was going to ask, which is redundant, talk about technology and how we navigate, let's talk about, and we don't have a ton of time, but let's at least get everyone to weigh in on the element of how building community requires one to be a bit of a politician. You can't hope for people to come out and know what you're doing if you're not willing to literally have feet on the ground and be in the mix. So talk about that experience a little bit and what it requires.
Yeah, I had to sort of become a different person because I'm sort of a loud guy. I have opinions, but when you're a politician, which my job does require because I have communities to support me, and I, like my Facebook page is now, nothing's there, and I'm always talking about the library in a positive way. I remember once I went to something not so positive happened, not with the city, but with another entity that supports us, and somebody said, oh, you must be really pissed off about that. And I said, I would never use those words. It's unfortunate that we didn't get what we need, blah, 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 blah. But I did, in fact, want to say, rah.
Sure.
But, our role in the community isn't John Huddy's, though I joke about being Stalin, it isn't about me. And all the good stuff that I've had done with the library has really come out of my staff, one of whom is sitting over there, Barbara, and the work that they do, because it is about them. Somebody once was like, oh, somebody else is on this report, in this article, are you not even in charge over there? I'm like, yes, I am, but this isn't the John Huddy Hagiography Society, this is John Huddy, this is the library trying to get the word out, and I've got a lot of very smart people who work for me, and I can't pay them $10 billion, so I have to let their flowers bloom. And they get in front of the community, and they make their connections, because they are out there, and Andy knows them, and they're doing the good work of the library and the community, so. Over to you.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you for all the time you've given this mic today. The key, I think, for any good politician is leadership. I think that as many of you leave this festival this weekend and go back to your communities, I think the word creativity and leadership almost go hand in hand. And in the sense that if we're looking for change, if we're looking for things to grow, foster, nourish, they're going to need a leader to be that voice. And if we leave this festival and look at our notes, put it up on a shelf, and then continue with our day-to-day life, we're missing that key element. Leadership means maybe either taking control of a situation or being involved. Oftentimes we think of leader as one, but a leader is a whole as an overall. And so I would encourage many of you, like I've said before as I've been up here, to just really go back and say to yourself, what would make me excited about the community of which I live, and then become a leader in that voice. If it is, I want to get this book published and I want to get it out there, become a leader in that sort of literary world that you're in, and find out ways to not just support your book, but support those who are working around you. A community will help spark and excite the work that you're doing, and that way you're not just single individuals screaming and that sort of thing as well. So I think the key to it all is a strong leader while being a politician, but then also making sure that you've got the community involvement as well. It's a full circle element. The Lion King comes out this weekend. That's the circle of life, everybody. That's an impromptu marketing experience you've just had that day.
Always be said.
And I'll kind of, I guess, probably close to end on this, to build on what Andy and John have said. You remember that you are, wherever you're from, if you're from Winchester, if you're from Floyd, Virginia, if you're from wherever it is, whatever your community is, you are the most powerful spokesperson for that community. You are the most powerful marketer for that community. When you are, Think about when you're sitting on an airplane next to someone and they ask you where you're from. And you say, oh, you know, say you're from Winchester. Oh, I'm from Winchester. Oh, I've never been there. What's it like? You are the entire voice for your entire community right in that moment. You never know who you're sitting next to. That could be someone who has a business and they want to relocate somewhere, or they're thinking about moving their family somewhere, or they just want to visit somewhere. They're asking, they're interested. That's an engaged person. You are setting the tone for your entire community and all your businesses and all your people. You're setting that tone in that one moment, that one precious little moment when you're talking about your community. So if you are engaged in your community, if you have found yourself to be passionate about your community, engaged in it, your automatic response is going to be, oh, it's great, it's wonderful, we've got this great place to live, there's so, you know, it's such a great place, we've got this and that to do, there's all these great things, and that person's going to go, okay, remember that one, I'm going to remember that. You are the greatest spokesperson for your community. We can do whatever we can do to market the heck out of it. You know, your tourism office can do whatever they can do, but you are the most powerful person to go out and get that voice out. Every time you meet someone who's not from your area, you are the most powerful spokesperson.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think everyone here can see why I had these folks on the panel. I love a round of applause for them participating, and also for what you do, of course.
So we're all in the writing world out here, I'm assuming. That's why we're here today, to educate, but maybe also because you're writers or you're authors. I would take a few moments of your busy schedule this weekend and make sure you visit Christine and Brian Patrick at the Winchester Book Gallery. I found that my time at the Book Gallery, and I believe that they would concur, the bookstore is the heart, I think, of any good community. It's got exactly what you're looking for. It's also got every piece of literature that you can sort of explore and discover what it is. I would encourage all of you to talk to them, purchase something from them, obviously. But I think that they are the crucial element for many of you interested in getting your books out there. They can be a treasure trove of information. And remember, it's a conversation. Some of the worst experiences I've had were booksellers coming in and demanding me to carry their book. And so if you can sit down and learn, especially from those in the industry, it's a fabulous resource. And so I encourage you to talk to the two of them. Always a great plug right there. Thank you for
Serendipitously, Christine Patrick, owner and operator of the Winchester Book Gallery, is our next panel leader.
Oh, bravo.
So how about them apples?
That's
Gentlemen, you inspire me, you inform me. Thank you so much for being here.